I did one of these in objection to a certain French painter, and then I did one on Francisco Goya, who was painting at the same time, so under similar circumstances, with utterly different results. That led me to think of two other Spanish painters, one earlier and one that came after Goya. Diego Velasquez was listed along with Rembrandt and Nature as models for Goya's work. As was the custom, because it was necessary, Velasquez began painting for nobles, and that led to the King of Spain, Philip IV, who appointed him the official court painter. Velasquez, partly Jewish and just a painter, a tradesman, wanted, more than anything, to be designated a member of the nobility, an aristocrat. With that in mind, I want to mention three of his works. The king sent him twice to Rome to purchase works of art for the royal collection, so Velasquez was operating both as an artist and a curator. While in Rome the second time, he painted a portrait of his slave, Juan de Baraja. The picture is bursting with pride and dignity. The man is clearly no slave. Velasquez did with his art what he was about to do in life, transform this person from a slave to a free man. I also favor a portrait Velasquez made of the Pope, Innocent X. Francis Bacon used this work to make many screaming versions, causing it to look like a man trapped in some kind of hell. In Velasquez's original, the 76-year-old Pope, once said to be too ugly to ever become Pope, radiates power and intelligence. You simply can't miss this. And in his left hand he's holding a petition signed by the painter asking him to intervene on his behalf in Spain in his quest to join the aristocracy, an addition which deepens the picture, giving it a personal narrative. And the Pope apparently did not object to this. He admired the portrait and had it hung outside his office. Back in Spain, Velasquez did apply to join the Knights of Santiago, a title that would have established him as a nobleman. After a prolonged investigation, he was refused. 9 years later, with a judge from the Pope, he was accepted. In his famous painting, Las Meninas, Velasquez himself is there along with the royals, attendants, dwarf, dog, and the man in the distance. Velasquez puts himself there because that is where he belongs. And 4 years after completing the painting, the red insignia of the Knights of Santiago was added to his tunic. We do not know if Velasquez put it there or if someone added it for him, but it too belongs. Pablo Picasso did not have to work for wealthy patrons. He was famous in his own right and could paint whatever and however he pleased. The work sold for impressive sums. What he painted was art simply because he, Pablo Picasso, had painted it. Even a doodle on a napkin was art if it was by the hand of the great Picasso. His work was like no other, warping reality, with no social references and totally unsentimental. He was obsessed with his work and his life. He had money, fame, and mistresses. He was also a Spaniard, even if he lived in Paris. As civil war threatened to tear his homeland apart, Picasso could no longer ignore the ties he had to his native country. When a bombshell burst in the Prado in Madrid, Picasso agreed to become the director of the museum, supervising the immediate evacuation of many artworks, including those of Velasquez and Goya. In 1937, German planes flew over the Basque town of Guernica, 7,000 inhabitants. They dropped over 5,000 bombs, then jets strafed people trying to run. They finished off the town by dropping incendiaries which burned whatever was left. Picasso was familiar with Goya's work, of course, the disasters of war and the 3rd of May. In response to this latest slaughter, he began to work on a large canvas, 20 by 12 feet, using his personal artistic vocabulary of horses and bulls, light and violently distorted figures. His lady at the time, Dora Mars, assisted him and kept a photographic record of the painting as it developed. And as he progressed, signs of hope, optimism, and heroic resistance were eliminated, they dwindled, perhaps, to a candle. As Goya had written, "There is no remedy." Guernica, the painting, may have mysterious elements, but anyone glancing at it sees immediately two things. It is a Picasso, and a terrible thing has happened. The black and white work was not hailed as a masterpiece except by the genius himself. It was the last great work he would produce. One critic dismissed it as a private brainstorm, which I think is a terrific description. It is all about suffering, carnage, the destruction of an entire town compressed into a single room. And, unfortunately, I think it began to make more sense as time went on. In 1941, a German officer came to Picasso's studio in Paris, was looking around, and he found a postcard representation of the painting. He picked it up, scanned it for a time, and said, "Did you do this?" And Picasso said, "No, you did." That might not have happened, but it's too good to omit.